Join us for the GSA Global Sorghum and Millets Expo on September 5th and 6th, 2025 in association with Purdue University College of Agriculture Department of Food Sciences, hosted by the Global Eye International Institute for Leadership in collaboration with the Global Strategic Alliance GSA. Taking place at the Yellow Box, 1635 Emerson Lane, Naperville, Illinois. This exciting event unites farmers, food producers, industry leaders, and innovators from the USA and India to celebrate and explore the incredible potential of millets, super grain. Showcase your millet products, set up an exhibit booth, and connect with partners who share a vision for healthier, sustainable food solutions. Don't miss this opportunity to network, discover new markets, and gain valuable industry insights. Register now as a delegate to secure your spot and be part of this transformative event in sustainable agriculture. For more details, email us at gsaglobalmilletsexpo@gmail.com.
Hello and welcome to Dr. VGP'S podcast, Dr. VGP Talk Show, which reaches 42 million households, including 2 million in North America. Today, our featured star guest is an innovative personality, a 27-year-old millennial based in Washington, D.C., who has started a movement which he calls a community education program, which is experimental experience called Month Off. Could you imagine? With the growing digital technology, digital age, with the iPhones, with the AI, with robotics, with communication, with ChatGPT, where information, limitless information is available to us in split seconds. There is a young advocate today in Washington, D.C. who is educated with a bachelor's in computer science from Duke University in North Carolina and got his master's degree in religion and anthropology from New York University. Grant Bessner, talking about use of simple phone rather than smartphone. This intriguing conversation is a must listen to each of our viewers and your family and friends, because my dear viewers, this is a new age movement which has been bundled into a new age movement which has been evolved into something never thought of before. Month off our cellular phones. For most of us, our cellular phones, internet enabled, are our lifeline and become indispensable. We're always clinging on to our cell phones. Here is a young man, educated, 27 years old, well-read, a writer, educator, and a philosopher, who has gone to China and taught English as part of a program from Duke University. And he has also been in Vietnam in part of a Duke engagement program where he built walls in a hospital. Today, he's in Washington, D.C., where he has launched a movement for touchscreen addicts, a support group. Listen and hear this most impactful, energetic young man trying to make a difference in this digital world. Grant Bessner.
Thank you for having me. My name is Grant Bessner, and with a few colleagues of mine, we started and run an organization called Month Offline that runs community education programs. Right now, we're based in Washington, D.C., and we are currently in the middle of our first cohort where we've recruited 18 local Washingtonians to give up their smartphones for the month of May and to use instead a dumb phone or a flip phone. And so we provide resources and encouragement as well as creative challenges for people to remediate their experience of remediate their relationship with technology and also with urban space by limiting their access to the internet, especially when they're mobile or outside of the home and don't have easy access to a computer or an internet connection. That's basically a little bit about the organization. A bit about myself. I grew up in South Florida. I have a bachelor's degree in computer science from Duke University in Durham, North Carolina. I have a master's in religion from New York University in New York City. And currently I live in Tacoma, which is a neighborhood in northeastern Washington, D.C., on the border with Maryland. I am a writer and I guess you could say an educator. Maybe a cultural interventionist. I guess I'm inhabiting the question of what does the right balance between friction and convenience look like in our digital lives, especially as artificial intelligence promises to reshape our relationship to information, content production and distribution. So that's a bit about me and the organization I'm a part of.
Welcome to Dr. VGP Podcast, Dr. VGP talk show that reaches 42 million viewers, including 2 million across North America. Today, our star guest is Grant Bessner, a 27-year-old student of life, thinker, writer, and educator, an aspiring cultural interventionist. Thank you so much, Grant, for joining me on Dr. VGP's podcast today. And we're looking forward to an enlightening conversation on what you're doing. And thank you for getting time to be on our show today.
Thanks for having me.
Good. Could you tell our viewers, Grant, about your early childhood and education? You come across as a very interesting personality. It's off the cuff. So tell our viewers what your early childhood education.
Sure. So a bit of background on myself, and thank you again for having me on your show. We met in the airport a few days ago when I was flying from Washington, D.C. to Chicago, and it was very generous for you to extend an invitation to have me on your podcast, and I look forward to our conversation. I grew up in South Florida. I was born in a suburb of Fort Lauderdale. I'm one of 3 brothers. I'm a Jewish American. And I guess childhood was, my childhood was I'm very fortunate. I come from a really loving household with parents who really instilled in us a love of learning. In the summers, we would do math problems, and we had this big jar that we would fill up with jelly beans. So every time we did a page of math problems, our parents would give us a jelly bean. And my brothers and I would put it in the jar. And then at the end of the summer, if we filled up the jar, we would get to go to Disney World because growing up in Florida, you have a Florida resident discount. And that was a very formative early experience. My older brother, Ian, contracted leukemia at right before his 11th birthday and passed away soon thereafter. And my family started a pediatric cancer nonprofit organization called I Care, I Cure. So I think that was a big part of my early childhood and adolescence was appreciating the fragility and sanctity of life. And then also through my parents' example, understanding how you respond to adversity and try to make the best of the cards that you're dealt. So I think that basically encapsulates my early life.
I mean, that gives a strong background of where you are. Your parents have started the I Care Foundation, And like you rightly said, the fragility and the sanctity of life is very important to be sensitized to that. Tell us about your student life. You did a master's in computer science, I guess, at Duke University in North Carolina. Am I right?
I did my bachelor's at Duke for 4 years in computer science. And my master's degree I did at New York University in religion and
interesting.
Anthropology.
Religion and anthropology. Excellent. So now you have Grant has launched a very unique community education program. I call it a movement, Month Offline. Now, Grant, at 27-year-old, with all his education, you just heard he has a master's degree in religion and anthropology. Tell us about this Month Offline unique community education program, first of its kind in North America. Go ahead, Grant.
That we know of.
Yes.
So the program began out of conversations between myself and some of my friends in Washington, D.C. And we've felt, and I felt, that our smartphones, these devices that have become a ubiquitous part of the experience of being a young person in modern society, have really had a negative effect on our communities, on our mental health. They're very recently developed. The iPhone was introduced and went to market in 2007 when I was 10 years old. I was born in 1997. And it's kind of just been part of the infrastructure, the information infrastructure of my upbringing and the process of socialization and individuation of so many young people in the world today. But for most of human history and the civilizational record, we know that humans did not evolve to have limitless and cheap access to infinite information as an extension of their nervous system. The average American today reaches for their phone, checks for their phone every 2 minutes and 39 seconds. And if you think about that, it's crazy. It's this impulsive, compulsive behavior. And many of us feel burnt out because we don't have a separation between our professional and our private lives. We don't have the ability to be present and focus when we are engaging socially with our family or our peers. And I think for me personally, I got, and I'll show you my phone. It's a dumb phone, or not a smartphone. And all it can do is call and text. There's no internet capability.
Like a simple phone.
A simple phone. And this is from a Swiss company called Punkt, and the model is the MP02. And there seems to be kind of a growing movement of people who hate their phones. They hate how much time they spend scrolling on social media, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and how it impacts your patterns of sleep, how it impacts your energy and the time that you can spend socializing. Dating is also a big thing that I've heard from a lot of people, how it's kind of reshaped our relationship to space, the ability to just disappear and dislocate, and cognitively to be anywhere, to have a conversation, instantaneous video call with somebody an ocean away is a very new capability. And I think I kind of felt like I was everywhere, and thus I was also nowhere.
Correct.
And so getting off my smartphone has allowed me to remediate my experience of my environment. And I felt a lot lighter and a lot more present in my life once I got off my smartphone. Huh. And that was a few years ago that I got this phone when I was living in New York City when I was in graduate school. And when I moved to DC, I'd kind of been moving to a hybrid model where I would use my smartphone sometimes when I needed it. And then when I would get home, I would take out my SIM card and change it into my dumb phone. So when I was in the home, I couldn't bring the internet with me. I only had my computer at my desk, And then when I was in the bathroom or in the bedroom or in the kitchen, I didn't have the ability to access the internet. And that meant that I was not listening to music or podcasts when I was cooking. I was just much more present when I was cooking. Or when I was in my bedroom, I could read a book, but there wasn't anything there to keep my mind seeking dopamine and instant gratification. And so a few friends and I got together and we said a lot of people want to get away, want to disconnect and want to re-enter real life and get away from our virtual reality that's omnipresent. And so many people want to do this, but there's a lot of pressure and I think a lot of fear that if I get off my smartphone, it will isolate me from my community, from my family. And it's scary to do this alone because you kind of feel that it's inevitable and necessary that you should always have a smartphone. And that's just not the case. And so we started this program, Month Offline, to experiment with and really inhabit the question of, one, can we start some type of community education initiative or social movement without the internet? So we don't have a website and we don't have social media. We just have posters that we put up all across DC, and it connected people to a 1-800 number, a toll-free number, 1-844-OFFLINE. And we put up posters and we said, are you tired of the smartphone? Are you tired of real images of fake people and fake images of real people?
Wow.
Because now...
Repeat that again. Real
images of fake people and fake images of real people. And that's borrowed actually from an article in the New Yorker magazine. I forget the author's name, but it's a great piece. But with artificial intelligence producing content for social media platforms, we don't even know what's real and what's not real. It poses an epistemic challenge to us as consumers of media. And a lot of people are just done and they want an experience that feels real and creative, where they can actually interact with people in the real world and build communities, like in a way that religion has always played a role in human civilization. We are social creatures and we need an experience. We need experiences in our bodies with other people. And so we posted these flyers around Washington, D.C.
How was the response?
Overwhelming. A lot of people called in, and
so the number again is
1-844-OFFLINE. And we got a lot of calls from people, and we said it's an interactive voice response system, like when you call the doctor and you are a doctor. So you call the doctor and it says, oh, press 2 for English. Press 3 para Espanol. To fulfill a prescription, press 4. And you can record an audio file. And so instead of having a landing page on a website, we have a landing phone line. So you call in and then you get to learn a little bit about the program, which is a month-long communal experience where you commit to giving up your smartphone for a month and you meet up weekly with other people.
Like something like the Alcohol Anonymous.
Exactly. It's a support group for you might call it touchscreen addicts.
Touchscreen addicts. Wow.
Touchscreen addicts. And a lot of people called in and we asked them to record a short 1-minute voice application. So you don't fill out a form to apply to the program. You just record on this old new technology of the voice. Instead of text, it's the voice. It's audible, verbal. And we said, just tell us in a minute why you want to get offline and what's your relationship with your smartphone like and with the internet. And so many people said, this is so amazing. I saw this poster and I thought about it for a week and I said, you know what? I need to get off my phone. Or for some people, they were recently laid off by the Trump administration and the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. And they said, wow, I'm looking for a new work and I have all this free time and I'm spending all of my free time just scrolling on my phone. and it's driving me crazy and making me depressed. This is an amazing opportunity. I want to be with other people. I want to meet new people. I want to have the support of a group of people that are all focused on
together,
bettering themselves and on supporting each other. And each week we've given them creative challenges to do, to explore what it's like to be an urban subject, someone living in a city.
Like metropolitan city, like Washington, D.C.
Like Washington, D.C. or Chicago, without a smartphone. So a smartphone has condensed a lot of different types of analog technologies into a single monoculture. So you have media production, picture taking, recording, you have a communication device, you have a GPS and a global positioning system.
Enabled, all the programs.
All condensed into one device. And I'm sure you remember, there used to be so many different ways you would have to bring a camera with you. And if you were taking a picture on a film camera as opposed to a digital camera, you needed to really stop and consider, oh, I only have 36 shots on this roll of film. I'm not just going to take pictures everywhere.
Absolutely.
I need to really focus and think, wow, what's going to be what do I want to capture from this moment? Or when you're communicating, when you would write by hand, as humans have done for centuries, or from the late 19th century into the mid 20th century, you would write on a typewriter. And every keystroke, every pen stroke carried weight to it. You couldn't just delete an email and rewrite it and delete it and rewrite it. And it also wasn't instantaneous. It had a material cost associated with it. And the materiality of the medium changed the way that you would interact with somebody. When you would write a correspondence with somebody, it was a way of also reflecting your personally,
and your
own thoughts and your own sense of self and your own personal identity. And what text messaging has done, and also email, is it's changed the way that we deploy language and that we communicate with other people. And I've noticed this. So many of my friends and family are spread out across the country, and the illusion of proximity that our devices present, and also the illusion of constant availability, make us really worn out because we feel like, oh, we should always be able to be in touch with people that we're distant from. And so I've started writing letters to people, and I seal it with, I pour wax on it, and I seal it with a stamp, and I put it in the mail. And even my friend who I'm visiting here in Chicago, I saw on his desk, he still has my letter that I sent him, and he has it out because it was so meaningful for him to receive something physical and that you could hold in your hands. And it signals that you care about that person in a way that a phone call, while instantaneous, is immaterial. And once the phone call is over, it's gone. You can't hold it and keep referencing it. And which is not to say we should never use the phone or we should never use digital technologies. But I think the real question of Month Offline is, as we progress in the 21st century with advances in information technology, artificial intelligence, and we can get more into that later, as human beings, what's the appropriate balance between friction and convenience? And when you are using a dumb phone, you find that life is much more textured than it is when you can just disappear and you don't have to be present for your experience. We're having this conversation right now because I did not have my headphones on in the airport. I was listening in my environment to you. I think we're listening to a podcast about the new Pope being elected.
Yes.
And I started the conversation.
Correct.
And how rich it is for us to now get to know each other and meet each other because we crossed paths.
Correct. You know, Grant Bessner, you have opened a Pandora's box, and you've elucidated us about the moment which you have you call it a community education experience month offline. So well it's said, and you have also elucidated how you went around Washington DC, had posters with this 1844 offline, and you have, I think the aim of the whole program is disconnect and re-enter real life. I like that.
Yeah.
And we are fed up.
Our tagline is less is mo.
Less is more.
So mo is month offline.
Yeah.
But it sounds like more.
Yeah.
Less is mo.
Less is more.
So when you give something up, you also get a lot back.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And he also says our lives have been disrupted by these internet-enabled smartphones or iPhones, as you call it, real images of fake people and fake images of real people. I mean, but to most of us today, cell phones are indispensable to many of us, and really the lifeline for everything. I'm sure it'll be a challenge. Like you rightly said, it's an addiction which we all become a way of life. I like the way that you are having a support group. Action speaks louder than words for those who want to do this experiment of being offline for a month.
For a month.
Yeah.
You might go back to using your smartphone. But now you've had an experience where I don't always need this.
Correct.
And I can do other things that aren't on my phone. I can rediscover some creative passions. One of our participants is writing a story, like just a piece of prose that he's been meaning to for years. And without his phone, he now wakes up in the morning, and he said the first day that he woke up and didn't have a smartphone to reach for the first thing in the morning, it was like living in a new reality.
Correct.
Because you just are in a room.
Correct.
And you're not all of a sudden plugged into this global content machine.
Correct. With limitless information.
Limitless information.
And access immediately.
Instantaneity.
Yes. And I think your support group, for, as you call it very aptly, touchscreen addicts, which I think 95% of us are.
Sure.
And there's
definitely research about the average amount of time people spend on their phones a day.
Yes.
And the iPhone introduced
an app
several years ago called a feature called Screen Time, where you could track your usage on the phone. And there's a whole kind of cottage industry of other applications and features to help you limit your screen phone usage or to disable certain applications on your smartphone. But the psyche is very sneaky, and I can attest to this, and I'm sure many others can, that you find ways of getting around the restrictions you put in place for yourself.
Correct.
And so the premise that this operates under, the dumb phone device, is that your mind can't be trusted. You actually need to give your phone to a friend or family member and have it out of your
reach,
out of your access, out of your reach.
But on the other hand, there are apps like WhatsApp, which enables to connect across countries, which we couldn't do before.
That's right.
We had to go through the old phone call and the system, and digital communication has its positiveness and is very effective, especially for people like us who have relations and friends internationally. In the same second, like a regular phone call, we are able to make calls. So while we are at this, I think there needs to be a crossroads and examine, like you rightly pointed out, yes, there's a lot of negative effects of being addicted to your phone.
Oh, there's so many benefits.
At the same time, there should be a healthy balance. And I think this month offline program would challenge our minds to get back into a system, like you rightly pointed out, without at least a refresher break to give the mind and the body to see how's life without a phone.
And to allow us to be where we are and invest in producing local culture.
Correct.
What the globalization of information has done is it's centralized cultural production. So instead of local journalism producing, magazines on local stories, we're all reading stories about, what is Trump doing now? And it's really polarized us. And we're seeing democratic society also in India too, you know,
Right.
certainly, break down a little bit.
Correct.
And it's because we're living in these stories and we mediate so much of our sense of self and who we are and what groups we belong to in these entities that are scaled so far beyond what we can actually experience and comprehend.
So, Grant,
And-
where do you see yourself and this movement or community education program experience 5 years from now? What's your actual goal? What are you trying to achieve with Month Off? Less is more? Do you have some numbers you want to go? Or what is it that you're getting at? Do you want 1,000 people? What's your support group now? How many people?
I think the drive towards growth and scalability
Yes.
is part of
the movement.
No, actually, I think it's part of the forces that we are opposing.
Okay.
Because what smartphones have done is it enabled software companies and technology companies to drive towards growth and scalability, so that, you know, venture capitalists can reach a high return on investment. Uber, Airbnb, these digital marketplaces that are reshaping the ways that we live, have also kind of flattened particularity
Yes.
in different regions and localities. And so I think what we aspire for Month Offline to be is a bit of a return to our local communities. Because if you're not online and you're not everywhere, you need to re-inhabit your local particular circumstances and environment, the history of those places.
Yes.
So I think Month Offline is not about moving backwards and giving up new technologies. I think really the question is the future necessarily just faster and more efficient? And are we moving into becoming these cybernetic organisms once maybe we have biometric technologies and augmented reality? Or is there balance that can be achieved where maybe instead of everybody having only their smartphone, in the future people will have both a smartphone but also a simple phone or a dumb phone, and they
have a balance of both.
They switch the context depending on how they want to use them. And so instead of technology using you and mining your attention as a commodity to be bought and sold to advertisers, you have more agency over how you wish to engage with information ecosystems, especially as now we have algorithms that are so powerful.
Absolutely.
And know you better than you know yourself.
So Grant, you being a millennial and you're giving a refreshing, innovative thought space here and about this Month Offline program. It's very interesting and very enlightening, and I'm sure we're going to hear more about you. And as we spread the word around to make a healthy balance, like you said, between the simple phone and the smartphone, I think is the answer to how we can cope with the challenges of today's world in this digital
It's one
world.
such answer, but different communities will produce their own responses based on the needs of the people that are there. Instead of us having a grand universal answer that everybody can adopt, people will respond based on what they need. And so I think as you call it a movement, you know, we might call it a community education experiment.
Okay. Experiment or experience?
Both. It's an experimental experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Having said this, let's get to the concluding part of our enlightening conversation today on Rapid Fire. We'll ask you quick questions and quick repartees as we wrap around this most intriguing conversation which you had on Month Offline. Less is more. It's wonderfully elucidated. You just heard to 27-year-old Grant Bessner explaining his innovative experimental experience, as he call it. And you're very good in your words. You are truly a thought leader. Having said that, were you influenced by any author during your student and childhood days? And who is that?
I think more than anybody, my thought has probably been influenced by two men.
Did you read books?
One would be Marshall McLuhan.
You read his books when growing up?
I mean, he is kind of the person who started media theory studies.
Okay.
With his book that came out in the 1960s called The Medium is the Message. And he's really thinking about how television is reshaping society in the 1960s. So Marshall McLuhan would be somebody that was very influential. Also Wendell Berry, who is a farmer and a poet and a writer. And his book, The Unsettling of America, had a very big impact on me.
So tell us briefly, in 2 sentences, what was that book, Unsettling of America?
The Unsettling of America? I think it was kind of a agrarian critique of industrial civilization.
Okay.
And about how even as we're moving towards more efficiency and productivity and GDP growth, we are destroying our ecosystems, our communities, and our relationships. Agricultural landscapes. And we've lost a sense of the satisfaction that comes from working with our bodies in real communities. Because we've replaced the body with the machine. And also our culture and our relationships reflect that shift as well. And he really advocates quite profoundly. And he's someone, I mean, you mentioned, and I appreciated that comment about my use of language, because Wendell Berry is someone that's very attentive to the power of words. And
you said it right. You're a very influential thinker and talker and conversationalist. Grant, what do you see as a millennial? Where do you see, is America heading in the right direction? What is America today for the global audience? I would like you to give it the Bessner language narrative.
I don't know. America is more complex than I can possibly understand. I can tell you a story about what I think America is. America is a fiction, just like any country is a fiction.
Wow, this is the first time I heard it. America is a fiction. Fantastic. I think we have to do another whole podcast on that. And you said it well, and that's what you think. America is a fiction.
But it's not just America. As creatures, we can't understand how complex the world actually is. So we use language to tell each other stories about, and this language, comes from Yuval Noah Harari, who's a historian who wrote the best-selling book, Sapiens, and recently Nexus.
Sapiens is very popular.
Very popular. Yes. So I don't know about America, but in my local community, what is the direction I think we're headed in? I think really the challenge is we are moving into an age of abundance. Artificial intelligence promises to reshape global commodity supply chains, manufacturing.
Completely transforming it.
Medical research.
Robotic surgeons.
Robotics. And we are faced with existential challenges related to our dependency on fossil energy. And I don't know about the future of America or the future of humanity or life on this planet, but I think the real challenge is, can we have conversations and really repoliticize what it means to live a good life, and what it means to have enough. Because we've privatized ultimate conversations about metaphysics and purpose and meaning.
Every word you said, Grant, makes a lot of sense. How will you communicate that to a large audience in a short period of time to make it effective and have like fire catch in, like flames, and spread it around to people? And that's why I think the internet the smartphones will be a definite asset. What all you said makes a lot of sense. But how will that get out to the world? The fastest way would be a smartphone, a very internet-enabled
the most efficient way.
Devices.
But I think form and content need to mirror each other. Aldous Huxley, who wrote Brave New World, the great dystopian fiction novel from the 1940s.
You're so well read. If I know it's
but
too early.
Can I
Sure.
quote Aldous? Yeah. He has this great quote. He says, "The means are the ends."
Means are the ends. Very famous quote. Yes.
So, if we're trying to create some type of a world or change culture in a particular way, the way that we go about that should reflect the outcome we're trying to produce. So if the message I want to spread is we need to reconnect with our local particular culture, and I'm using the internet to spread that message, it's a bit self-defeating, isn't it?
Yes.
So I think the goal of for me as a student of
as
life,
a cultural interventionist,
is not to have an answer that I want other people to agree with. It's to pose questions
and
help other people
to explore themselves,
inhabit those questions, and come up with their own responses based on their circumstances.
Wonderfully. I know you are so good with your words and getting the message out. Grant, if you're given an opportunity from the past to present to take 3 people out for dinner, who would they be? It just tells our viewers who are your heroes, who are your mentors. You said a lot about the great authors who have influenced your life, but do you have 3 people you'd like to point out who are you'd like to take out from the past to present for dinner, if given an opportunity?
Yeah, I can think of 3, and each is kind of representative of maybe a different classification of a person. The first would be an anonymous craftsman from maybe feudal Japan or Europe, somebody who is entirely anonymous to history, who spent their life focusing on becoming a master in their craft, whether that was carpentry or working with clay plaster or some other material, somebody who is just entirely devoted to perfecting their craft. And their name has been entirely lost to history because they most likely weren't literate. So I would love to have dinner with an illiterate craftsman from some bygone era.
Wow.
The second would be James Clerk Maxwell, who is probably the most important person in terms of our civilization is concerned with from the 19th century, who really created and brought to light the laws of electromagnetism that are allowing these cameras to record our conversation, that's allowing this microphone to transmit encoded wavelengths onto a microprocessor. James Clerk Maxwell, he was a Scottish physicist. And he has this beautiful quote about the point of his life. And many early scientists, we talk about now of this friction between religion and science, but in the 19th century, scientists were deeply devout and spiritual, mostly men, with obviously some notable exceptions. But he said, my purpose is to serve my generation with the tools that I have, and then to go to sleep. And I think that that's a worthwhile outlook on the human problem. Third would be probably my great-grandfathers, who I'm named for, Fred and Sam.
On both sides, so father.
My grandmother's father and my grandfather's father on my father's side.
Yeah.
And I would just love to have a conversation with them, and to not even maybe ask them anything, just to sit and eat.
It's been such a delight having you and listening to your thoughts and enriching us every second of the way. Now tell me, Grant, how would you describe yourself in 3 words or 3 adjectives? You're such a phenomenal personality. Tell our viewers, how would you describe yourself in 3 words or 3 adjectives?
Self-description is challenging because I don't think I actually know myself well enough to be able to do that. I would say fluid. I think I'm constantly changing, as are we all. I would hope caring, and maybe goofy. I think laughter is so important.
So well said. Thank you so much, Grant, for joining us today. As Grant Bessner, you just heard, describes himself as fluid, he describes himself as caring and goofy. But I think the last one doesn't fit you because you are a bundle of intelligence, bundle of energy, and you have so much to offer, and you're trying to give this experimental experience, as you call month off line. And guys, who all our viewers, scrolling down the screen is 1844 offline. If you want to get in touch with Grant Bessner, who has launched a very innovative month offline to get from smartphones off to simple phones. Thank you so much, Grant, again for joining us. And I'm sure we'll see you soon.
Did you say I should offer a final word to our viewers?
Please. Yes, mind you. Short and brief, but yeah.
This is a quote also from Marshall McLuhan. There is no inevitability as long as there is a willingness to contemplate what is actually happening. So that would be the final quote I would leave your viewers
Thank you so much, Grant, for joining us. It's been a real pleasure, and we'll hear more from Grant Bessner, the phenomenon who has created Month Offline. Thank you.
Join us for the GSA Global Sorghum and Millets Expo on September 5th and 6th, 2025 in association with Purdue University College of Agriculture Department of Food Sciences, hosted by the Global Eye International Institute for Leadership in collaboration with the Global Strategic Alliance GSA. Taking place at the Yellow Box, 1635 Emerson Lane, Naperville, Illinois. This exciting event unites farmers, food producers, industry leaders, and innovators from the USA and India to celebrate and explore the incredible potential of millets, super grain. Showcase your millet products, set up an exhibit booth, and connect with partners who share a vision for healthier, sustainable food solutions. Don't miss this opportunity to network, discover new markets, and gain valuable industry insights. Register now as a delegate to secure your spot and be part of this transformative event in sustainable agriculture. For more details, email us at gsaglobalmilletsexpo@gmail.com. See you there.
Dear viewers, elevate your business to new heights and reach 35 million potential customers with Global Eye Digital. Contact us today at globaleyedigital@gmail.com or info@globaleyedigital.com. Let's take your business global.